Hello, my lovely students. How are you all? A very hearty welcome to this mind-blowing platform, Physics Wallah. My name is Nupur Sharma, and today we are going to talk about a scientist. The making of a scientist. See, whenever we talk about scientists, we think that, okay, we might, learn some theories and everything, and it might be a very boring chapter. No, but that's not the case with this chapter. It's a very interesting, very long chapter where we are going to, study about the interesting life of Richard Ebright. We are going to meet a scientist whose life was quite happening, and we can take a lot of inspiration from that scientist as well. So, okay, now let's start with the chapter. See, first of all, we'll have an overview, then line-by-line explanation, then important key points, and we are also going to discuss the homework. We are going to discuss the homework from your sample paper, okay? In every video, in every coming video, what we are going to do, we are going to pick up a question from your sample paper and we are going to, discuss it. We are going to, discuss it how you can attempt that question in your exam. Okay, now let's start. The overview. The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson is about Richard Ebright. Richard H. Ebright. We are going to read about this scientist, okay, who grew up in the town of Reading in Pennsylvania, USA, as he did not have much to do there. Collecting things was his hobby. So we are going to read about Richard H. Ebright. We are going to read about his life, and we are going to see that he belongs to Reading. The name of the town is Reading, which is in Pennsylvania, USA. And he did not have many friends. He did not have any friends. He did not have anyone, of his own age. That is why he formed a habit of collecting things. See, there are a lot of people who, love to collect the things. When I was very young, I used to collect coins. I used to collect coins and, very unique type of coins. I used to collect the, erstwhile coins I used to collect, and I had a huge jar that was full of coins. And I guess at that age, at that time, everybody used to, have these kind of hobbies, these kind of things in them, that we are going to collect the things, that we are going to collect stamps, or, some people, they used to collect rocks of different kinds. Why? Because that was a hobby, and we did not have much to do at that time. So Richard Ebright, he was even, quite old, and he used to do these things. He used to collect butterflies as a child in kindergarten. Now what we'll see here, that he used to collect butterflies, okay? It was quite an unusual thing to collect. Yeah, at that time, a lot of people used to do that, but still it was unusual to collect butterflies, but he used to do that in kindergarten. You know what's kindergarten? Kindergarten is KG. Basically, when we talk about UKG, LKG, that is upper kindergarten and lower kindergarten. Now we are going to see that how this curious child who collected butterflies went on to become one of the greatest scientists of the world. Today, in this chapter, we are going to see that this scientist basically was very curious. He was quite curious. He was quite an eager child. An eager child who was always, eager to learn new things. He had a very curious mind. How, from collecting butterflies, it was his hobby to collect butterflies, how he went on to become the greatest scientist. Okay, he was a very famous scientist. Now we are going to read about his journey throughout. Now, at the age of 22, a former Scout of the Year excited the scientific world with a new theory on how cells work at the age of 22. Now, they are quite overemphasizing on the age. They are talking about his age, that is 22. See, you have to, take care of this thing. They are talking about his age, that is 22 years. At the age of 22 years, he was also the former Scout. Former Scout, it means that earlier he was a Scout. Even not only a Scout, Scout of the Year. He got an award that he was Scout of the Year, and he excited the scientific world with his new theory on how cells work. Okay, so we read about how cells work. Now, all this contribution goes to Richard Ebright. We know this much about cells. Now, he is the one who is responsible for that. He and his college roommate explained the theory in an article in the Proceedings of National Academy of Science. This theory, it was mentioned in an article in a journal. You know what's a journal? Journal is a magazine, a science magazine basically, and it was mentioned in the National Academy of Science. Now, it was first time this important scientific journal had ever published the work of college students. Now, it was the first time. You know, earlier to that, nobody had, you know, published this kind of work, this kind of important work. It was, you know, first because he was just a college student, so it was a big thing. It was a very big thing that his work, his and his college roommates' work was published in this kind of, you know, scientific journal, in this kind of scientific magazine, you can per se, okay? You can also call it a magazine. Now, it had been published. Now, in sports, that would be like making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. Now, basically, they are comparing his achievement with the achievement of a sports person. Okay, in order to explain you that how big a thing it is, they are going to, you know, compare it with baseball. But since we are not very much familiar with baseball, we are familiar with cricket. So we can say that it was like, you know, the person has first time, you know, held a bat. And he made a, you know, half century in his first time. So it was like that. It was such a big achievement, not even a half century, not even, you know, a big century. A full century he made. And it was like that. It was compared to that. And it was a very big thing. For Richard Ebright, it was the first in a long string of achievements. It means that was just a starting. That was just a starting. It was, you know, the first thing in the line of achievements. He had achieved a lot in science and in other fields as well. And it all started with butterflies. Now, you have to understand this thing, that this all started with what? This all started with butterflies, with collecting butterflies. An only child, Ebright grew up north of Reading, Pennsylvania. There wasn't much I could do there, he said. I certainly couldn't play football or baseball with a team of one, but there was one thing I could do, collect things. Now they are talking about how it all started. How it all started, as I already told you in the starting, that this boy, he had no one of his own age, okay, so he could not play with anyone. So what he did was that he said that I could not play because I was just a team of one. I was only a single person. I couldn't play football or baseball because you need other people to play that. And he said that there was only one thing I could do, and that was collect things. So what he did, he started collecting things. Since he did not had anything else to do, like the children of his age, they used to play, you know, football or baseball. He used to love collecting things. Now, so he did that. Now he's telling that what kind of things he used to collect. He said that so he did, and did he ever? Did he ever? It means that he always did it. Till the end, he always did. He ever? Did he ever means he used to continue, you know, doing this thing. Beginning in kindergarten, Ebright collected butterflies with the same determination that he has marked all his activities. Now, this is a point to focus on. He said, now the writer is saying that he did this with determination. Determination means that he did this with resolution, like he did all other activities. They are, you know, focusing on this thing, that he did all the activities with same sheer determination. He also collected rocks. He used to collect fossils as well. Fossils are basically the remains. Fossils can be of different types. Fossils can be of different types. They can be the remains of living organisms, you know, that are, you know, buried inside the earth, and they become a fossil. They become like a rock. So he used to collect the fossils and everything. Since this is a time when we are talking about, you know, places which were not overpopulated, and there were a lot of chances where people, you could, you know, they could dig the rocks and fossils, and they had, you know, no other thing to do. Like the children of today, they are occupied with phones and television and everything, you know, they have a lot of games to play, other things to do. But at that time, they had only one habit, that was collecting things. So that Richard was also doing, you know, he was collecting remains, he was collecting coins. He also became an eager astronomer. Okay, he used to sometimes stargazing all night. Sometimes he was looking at the stars all night. He was staring at the stars. He was looking at the stars all night. He was an eager astronomer. Astronomer is the one who studies planets. One who studies about planets, stars, space, etc. Okay? Who's an astronomer? He was also called an astronomer because he used to, love studying about the planets, stars and everything. So he had quite an eager mind, so that you could, see from his childhood itself. Now, from the first time he had a driving curiosity along with a bright mind. From the first year means from the starting. As you could see, from the starting itself, he had a driving curiosity. Driving curiosity means that it was kind of motivating curiosity. There was something that was always motivating him. There are a lot of people in this world who are always motivated. Something is there that keeps them motivated, that keeps them on their toes. They're always, ready to do something or the other. And he was also like that only. And he also had a bright mind. So there were two good things with him. He had a driving curiosity and he had a, bright mind. So that was 10 on 10. He also had a mother who encouraged his interest in learning. She took him on trips, brought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, mounting materials and other equipments, and helped him in many other ways. Now he also had a mother. Okay, along with these plus points, along with these advantages, there was another advantage, and that was his mother. His mother was a strong force that helped him in all the cases. She took him on trips. They're, telling her mothers, the things that his mother, used to do for him. She used to take him on trips. She bought him all these things, microscopes and telescopes and everything. That was a very big thing. Her mother was supporting him at every step. She was buying all these things for him. She was helping him in other ways as well. Her mother could see that, yes, my child has talent. Now I must help my child, fulfill all his dreams. I was his only companion until he started school, his mother said. After that, I would bring home friends for him, but at night we just did things together. Richie was my whole life after his father died when Richie was in 3rd grade. Now she is saying, now it's the, it's what his mother said. His mother said that Richard was her only partner. He was his only partner. Now, who's a companion? Companion is not only a partner. Companion is not only a word that is used for, husbands and, friends, boyfriends and everything. Companion is a word that is used for any person with whom you spend time. Like even mother and son, if they spend a lot of time together. Companion can also be your pet with whom you spend a lot of time. So here they're talking about a partner, that kind of companion, and they both were companion. They used to spend a lot of time together. And the reason behind that was that Richard's father died when he was in 3rd grade. Okay, and because his mother was also left alone, he was also left alone. So what they did, they spent a lot of time together. She's also telling that she used to bring home all his friends because he always used to remain in the house. So his mother brought friends for him so that he could play with the friends. It was not like that his mother was isolating him. No, nothing like that. She used to bring his friends over, but at night they used to, do things together. They used to spend a lot of time together. She and her son spent almost every evening at the dining room table. If he didn't have things to do, I found work for him. Not physical work, but learning things, his mother said. He liked it. He wanted to learn. Now she's sharing the incidents. She's saying that they always used to, spend time in the evening. They used to, play. They used to do a lot of things together. Like she said that if he didn't have anything to do, for example, if he didn't have homework to do, if he didn't have any other thing to do, she used to, make him do other things, not physical activities. It was not like that like other usual mothers. She did not give him other, household chores to do. She did not tell him that, okay, you just go out and play, you do this thing, you do that thing. She used to, do what? Not physical activities, but learning things. They used to do learning things. She used to make him learn the things he wanted to learn. it was, this is also a thing. His mother, motivated him, but he also wanted to learn. This is a very important point, that he liked it. He liked, learning things. He always wanted to learn, as we are, knowing in this chapter, that he was quite eager. He was quite a curious child. So he was always ready to learn the new things, and his mother had found this thing, so she was always working upon that thing, and learn he did. He earned top grades in school on everyday things. He was just like every other kid, his mother said. By the time he was in the 2nd grade, Ebright had collected all 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown, and learn he did. It means that his mother, she forced him to learn, not basically force him. She encouraged him to learn, and learn he did. He learned the things. She said that he always used to score very good in exams. He used to score, good grades in exam, and he was just like other normal kids. It was not like that he was, unusual kid. He was not like Einstein. When we talk about Einstein was quite a different kid. Okay, he was called Brother Boring, as we've read this chapter. We have seen that Einstein, he used to behave very differently. But here in this case, we can see that Richard Ebright, he was not like that. He was just like normal other kids, like the other kids would do. But he used to, get top grades in the school, and he had a curious mind. And when he was in 2nd grade, see, as I told you, that he used to collect the things. When he used to collect the things, he did that with so much determination that he had collected all the 25 species. All the 25 species that were found in his hometown. What is his hometown? His hometown is Reading in Pennsylvania, US. So he had found all the 25 species, and he had collected all those species. And we can also see a list of the species that he had collected. Okay, so we can see the detailed work of Richard Ebright, and that was in 2nd grade. You have to remember this thing, that he was quite young. When we were in 2nd grade, what were we doing? Okay, we didn't know anything, but he was quite familiar with those things, and he had did, such a nice work, such a smart work he had done. That probably would have been the end of my butterfly collecting, he said, but then my mother got me a children's book called The Travels of Monarch 10. Now, he had collected all the 25 species that he found in his hometown, but what his mother did. Now, his mother got him a book, The Travels of Monarch 10. She bought him a book called Travels of Monarch 10. Monarch is a type of butterfly, and we are going to talk about in detail about this butterfly. So this butterfly, this kind of book, his mother got him. That book, which told how monarch butterflies migrate to Central America, opened the world of science to the eager young collector. Now, he said that what he found, when he read that book, he found that they were talking about migration. What do you mean by migrate? Migrate means to relocate. To relocate. A lot of species, a lot of animals, what they do is that they travel from one place to another place. They travel from one country to another, from one city to another city, for something or the other. If there is a lot of, winter, in the winters, especially in winters, if there is a lot of cold in one area, they travel to a hotter place. Like we can see in India, we see Siberian cranes, they come to India, they migrate to India. Like similarly, the butterflies also migrated from Central America. So it was quite a new thing for him to study. So this opened his, mind to science. He used to learn the things, he used to collect the things. But what encouraged him to, pursue science was this thing. When he learned about migration of the butterflies. At the end of the book, readers were invited to help study butterfly migrations. They were asked to tag butterflies for research by Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart of the University of Toronto, Canada. When he had finished the book, when he had finished reading the book, what he found in the end of the book was there was something written. It was written that all these students who have, who have interest in butterflies and who have read this book, they were all invited to study butterfly migrations by Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart. What Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart told basically all the people who were, reading that book. He was, he was a professor. He was in the University of Toronto and Toronto, Canada. What he told was that he was, inviting all the students that we should, study about this more. He was basically encouraging the young minds towards the butterfly migrations. He wanted them to, learn in detail. And Ebright's mother wrote to Dr. Urquhart, and soon Ebright was attaching light adhesive tags to the wings of monarch. Anyone who found a tagged butterfly was asked to send the tag to Dr. Urquhart. What he did, what basically Dr. Urquhart suggested the people, he suggested that whenever you find a monarch butterfly, you put a light adhesive tag on it, light glue tag on it, you put a tag on it, and anybody who finds a butterfly who has a tag on it, that person has to send that tag to Dr. Urquhart. This way, we can study the migration. We can study the migration of the butterfly. Like, suppose you find a monarch butterfly and you attach a tag to it. Now that butterfly is flying somewhere, and a person finds it, and you may find that where that butterfly is traveling to. They wanted to learn the relocation of this butterfly. They wanted to learn that where it is, heading to, where it is going, what route it is following, what route basically that butterfly is, choosing. Now they wanted to see that. They wanted the young minds to know about this migration. That is why they had encouraged the people that you have to do this thing. Okay, you have to attach the glue, glued tags to it, and anybody who finds a tag, they will send it to Dr. Urquhart. This way we can learn. This was also a fun activity. Here in this chapter, we are going to talk about a lot of fun activities. We are going to see that how these kind of fun activities, they can be, very beneficial for you. When you were in school, you used to perform a lot of scientific experiments. You were encouraged to make models, you were encouraged to make globes, you were encouraged to make charts and everything. And we always thought that why do we have to do that? Okay, you are, I'm talking about myself, that when, even if you talk about, you are asked to make, that working models, you have to make working models. Why you are encouraged to do that? You're encouraged to do that because there may be a person in your class that loves that kind of activity, who actually finds his motive when he is doing that. When he is preparing that working model, he might think that, okay yaar, I am loving this thing, I have to pursue this thing, I will do that in my future as well. And this way that person finds his interest. That is why you are encouraged to make the models and everything. So never say this thing that why our school is forcing us to do that. That is basically to tickle your curiosity that they are doing this thing. Now, the butterfly collecting season around reading lasts 6 weeks in late summer. See graph below. If you're going to chase them one by one, you won't catch very many. So the next step for Ebright was to raise a flock of butterflies. Now they are talking about butterflies in detail. He was saying that butterfly collecting season, he's also talking about butterfly collecting season, since he had to collect the butterflies to attach the tags on that butterfly. So he's saw that only for 6 weeks. That was only for 6 weeks in late summer. In late summer, there was only a period of 6 weeks when you could basically collect the butterflies. So he was saying that when you go out to catch a butterfly, it's very difficult to catch a butterfly. Okay, butterflies are not always, you cannot easily find them. So it was quite difficult to do. So he decided that I will raise my own butterflies. I will raise my own butterflies. It means that he was basically talking about the production of butterflies, and he did that. He had to raise a flock of butterflies. He had to raise a collection of butterflies he had to do. He would catch a female monarch, take her eggs and raise them in his basement through their life cycle. From egg to caterpillar to pupa to adult butterfly, then he would tag the butterfly's wings and let them go. For several weeks, his basement was home to thousands of monarchs in different stages of development. What he would do? They are explaining you that how he did that, how he raised the butterflies. He used to collect a female monarch. Okay, a female monarch, that female monarch, she used to lay eggs. And when that butterfly monarch, she used to, lay her eggs, he used to raise those those eggs. And he used to see the development. See, the eggs, they were, they were hatching, and the caterpillar came out of it. Then it used to form a pupa around it. Then the pupa, it used to release the butterfly. And he saw all those stages. He had, several butterflies he had seen in his life cycle. He was, he had seen thousands of monarchs, thousands of butterflies he was raising in his basement. And whenever the butterflies, they used to be ready, he used to tag, that adhesive, that glue tags he used to put on the wings of that monarch butterfly, and he used to let them go. See, he was doing that much. He was so much, determined to do this thing. It was just a simple activity. What people do, that people usually leave these kind of activities after a day or two, after a month or two, maybe, perhaps. But here we are seeing that he had continued this thing, that he had such kind of driving force in him, that he was, he started to raise the butterflies, and it was a time-taking job. He used to be in his basement. He was always collecting butterflies. He was always raising the butterflies. Now, they have also, shown you a graph where, this kind of graph they have shown you, that what is the collection season. Okay, they are talking about the number collected and the kinds of butterflies that used to be there. So they have given you a graph that you can, better understand while you are reading zoology and everything. Your zoology teacher, she can explain you better this kind of graph. Now, let's move further. Eventually, I began to lose interest in tagging butterflies. It's tedious and there is not much feedback. Now, as I told you that he was collecting butterflies, but eventually what happened? Eventually, there was a time when he realized that it was very tedious. It was very tedious. It means that this job was very tiresome. Tedious means tiresome. He was getting tired, and there was not much feedback. Feedback, it means that there was not much of a result. They were not getting any kind of solution. They were not getting any kind of answer. Okay, feedback. They were not getting any feedback. They were not getting any kind of solution. So there is not much feedback. It was not happening. Why? Ebright said, in all the time I did, he laughed. Only 2 butterflies I had tagged were recaptured, and they were not more than 75 miles from where I lived. He had raised thousands of butterflies. From thousands of butterflies, he had put tags on thousands of butterflies. Only 2 were recaptured. And he was, telling this thing while laughing. He was laughing. Obviously, he said that I had did, so many efforts, and only 2 were recaptured. And that were also not very far from him. That were only 75 miles from where he used to live. So it was not a big kind of achievement. So it was not a big thing. That is why he said that I had stopped doing that. Then in the 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a county science fair. Now he'll tell you that how he, fell into the real science world, how he got to know about the real science world. Earlier, he was interested in science. He was studying about the butterfly migrations and everything. That's also science. He was only working on theory and everything. But now he got a real touch of science when he participated in his county science fair and lost. County means in his region science fair, and lost. See, when a person loses, when basically a normal person loses, his heart is, he's disheartened. He feels very sad. He feels very depressed. But when a successful person, when a person who has a lot of curiosity and everything, when he loses, he takes it as a challenge. He takes it as a challenge that no, now I have lost. I have to change myself. I have to win from the other time. As it was really a sad feeling to sit there and not get anything while everybody else had won something. Ebright said his entry was slides of frog tissues which he showed under a microscope. He realized the winners had tried to do real experiments, not simply make a neat display. Earlier he was sad. Obviously, when you lose, the first thing that you feel is that you feel very sad. What he did, that he had, made entries of frog tissues. He had just, put the frog tissues, the slides of frog tissues under the microscope. Like even you see at your schools that you might have done that experiment, that where you collect your cheek, a tissue from your cheek. You use a toothpick and you scrape tissue and you see that under the microscope. So this kind of thing is done in the schools usually. So he had also done that thing. He had, shown frog tissues in a very neat display. Now when he participated, he saw that okay, I have lost because I have not done a real experiment. I have simply showed, I have simply done a neat display. But the people, the other children, they have done real size experiments. It means that they have done working models. They had prepared the working models, not only a neat display. So it was a time for him to change. See, now already the competitive spirit that drives Richard Ebright was appearing. I knew that for the next year's fair, I would have to do a real experiment, he said. The subject I knew most about was the insect work I had been doing in the past several years. Now, already he had a competitive spirit that we could see. There was a competitive spirit. He always wanted to win. He had a competitive spirit in him that drove him that, okay, I have lost this time, but I am going to win another time. So what he did, he thought that, okay, I have to do something. I have to change my line of work. I do not have to just show the experiments. I have to do a real experiment. The subject. Now he thought that on what subject I could work. He saw that, okay, I have been working on entomology. Entomology means I have been working with the insects for a very long time. His insect work, so he thought that, okay, I have to do something in that line only. He wrote to Dr. Urquhart for ideas. What he did was that it struck him that he should write to Dr. Urquhart, and he sought for the suggestions. And what suggestions he got? He got a lot of suggestions. Okay, those kept Ebright busy all through high school. Now what Dr. Urquhart did? Dr. Urquhart sent him a stack of suggestions. He sent him a pile of suggestions. There were a lot of suggestions that Ebright told him, that Urquhart told him that you could do. And Ebright, he was busy. He was quite busy in doing all these things. He did all these experiments all through his high school, and he won a lot of prizes for that. Okay, and what were those? For his 8th grade project, Ebright tried to find the cause of a viral disease. And now, as I told you, that it kept him busy through his, high school. So what he did in his 8th grade, it has been told that he was trying to find the cause of a viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. He saw that because he was raising the monarch butterflies, so he saw that a lot of monarch, caterpillars, they die. Why do they die? He was trying to find that reason. He thought that the disease might be spread through beetles. He thought that might be the beetles are responsible for this thing. So what he did, he started raising the caterpillars in the presence of beetles. Okay, he tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. It means that now he was raising the caterpillars along with the beetles to see that if beetles, they pass the disease, if beetles are actually responsible for their death. But it didn't show anything. It did not show anything. But what he did, he went on to that science fair, and he showed that I have done this kind of experiment. I have raised beetles and monarch butterflies along so that I could find the reason behind their death. But he could not find anything, but still he won the prize. This time he won. And the next year his science fair project was testing the theory. Now it's a very interesting theory. You have to understand that this he did in his 8th grade. Now in his 9th grade, what he did, he was trying to, test the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarch butterflies. He was actually trying to find that do viceroy butterflies copy monarch butterflies? What is the reason behind that? Why do they do that? And are actually animals capable of doing that? Basically, butterfly is not an animal, it's an insect. That actually, can insects copy the other insects? So why the thing was, it was a thing that monarch butterflies, they do not taste good. They do not have very good taste, that insects are to be eaten. There are other animals that eat the insects, and butterflies are also eaten by the birds and everything. The birds eat them. Even some animals, they eat them. The carnivore plants, they eat them. But here it is shown that the birds, they do not eat monarch butterflies because they do not taste good. So the more they look like monarchs, whereas the viceroy butterflies, they do taste good. There are two types of butterflies, monarch butterflies and the viceroy butterflies. Monarch butterflies, they have very, they have a very peculiar taste. They have very bad taste, so the birds do not eat them. Whereas viceroy butterflies, they are very tasty. So what viceroy butterflies do, they try to look like monarch butterflies so that they do not become the food of the birds. Yes, this is called the survival of the fittest. This is also a theory that insects also do this thing. So Ebright, he was basically trying to find out this thing, and it was his experiment. He wanted to see that whether somebody would eat monarch butterflies or not. And what he found? He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. That starling was very different from other birds. Other birds would not eat monarch butterflies, but starling, which is a very common bird found in Europe, he would eat. It would eat the monarch butterflies as much as it could. It would eat a lot of monarch butterflies. Maybe it had acquired the taste of, the strange, peculiar taste of monarch butterflies. So it used to eat. Ebright said that he was not able to prove this thing. He hadn't got any proof that they were different, that they used to copy. But he said that later it was proved. Later there were a few people who could actually prove that yes, viceroy butterflies do copy the monarch butterflies, so they are not eaten by the birds. Now this project was placed first in the zoology division. This experiment got first in the zoology division and the third overall in the county science fair. So it was quite a big, achievement. In this fair, it was won. In his second year in high school, Richard Ebright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. In his second year. Now they are basically jumping on to his second year in high school. Okay, they're talking about his second year in high school. What they saw, what actually Richard did was that Richard began the experiment on an unknown hormone. He was studying about an unknown insect hormone. You know what are hormones? Hormones are the one that help in your growth and everything. So what he saw was that indirectly he was basically talking about the life of cells, because the hormones, the cells have to work together. So he was basically talking about the life of a cell. He was trying to read the life of cell, and the question, what question he was trying to answer, as I told you that he was only doing the insect work. So he was trying to find out the purpose. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? See, on a monarch pupa, there are 12 gold spots. Pupa, the caterpillars found, they form a pupa around them. They form a, hard covering around themselves. So why they did that? Okay, and there was, that why they do that. But he was not able to find out that what was the purpose of those tiny gold spots. He wanted the answer of that. Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental. Everybody thought that it is ornamental, that it means that it is decorative. Okay. Everybody thought that like the nature is very beautiful and it was just enhancing the beauty of the pupa. But Dr. Urquhart, he thought differently. He thought that no, these tiny gold spots, they are there for a reason. See, they were 12 in number. So he wanted to find out the reason, that Ebright wanted to find out the reason. So he had, what he did was to find the answer. Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that these spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterflies. Now him, Ebright and his, college roommate, another, not his college roommate, but another, scientist, he was also a very good scientist. What they did together, they devised a thing, they devised a device that was, able to find that these gold spots, they were actually, ejecting a hormone. They were releasing a hormone. And what kind of hormone? They saw that this hormone was necessary for the butterfly's full growth development. He had finally found this thing, that the gold spots were not just ornamental, but they were releasing, a growth hormone. This project, it got the first prize in the county science fair. It was a very big thing. He got the first place in the county science fair and entry into the international science and engineering fair. He even got an entry in the international science and engineering fair, and he won 3rd place for zoology there. Okay, it was a very big thing to go in the international science and engineering fair. First, he was only doing it on the county level, but he had gone to the international level and he was able to prove himself. Now he got a chance to work in the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Now this was a very big thing. Because he had won a prize, he got the opportunity to work in an army laboratory. See, what happens is in an army laboratory is that they have very delicate equipments. They have advanced equipments. So he was able to research more on this project. As a high school junior, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. That year, his project won 1st place at the International Science and gave him another chance to work in the army laboratory. See, he again worked on the monarch pupa, and this time what he won 1st prize. He won the 1st place at the International Science Fair. Earlier, he had got 3rd prize. This time he got 1st prize. It was a very big thing, and because of this thing, he got another chance to work in an army laboratory in the summer. In his senior year, he went a step further. He grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture and showed that these cells would divide and develop into a normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone. Now he went a step further. It was a big step. Because of those delicate instruments, those advanced instruments that were present in the laboratory, he was able to grow cells. He grew cells from monarch's wing. He took a few cells from the monarch's wing and he started growing them in a culture, like you see that they grow it in a petri dish or something. Even children can be grown out of it. You have seen that the test tube babies, how they are formed. So this was also a thing that he was developing them in a culture. Now they were only forming when they were fed this hormone. Because of that, in the absence of that hormone, they could not be grown. Only because of this hormone, they were able to grow. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the army laboratory. Now he this project also won him 1st place for zoology at the international fair. Again, he got a 1st prize in the international fair. So after summer, after his graduation, again he was working in the laboratory. Again, it means that he was getting a chance to work in the army laboratory again and again in the US Department of Agriculture. US Department of Agriculture. So it was a big step for him. It was a big thing for him. It was a big achievement. And at the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture, in both the laboratories, he was getting a chance to work. And that the better the laboratories are, better researches he could do. The following summer, after his freshman year at Harvard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spots. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. When following summer, while in his freshman year, it means in his 1st year, when he was working, when he got a chance to study in Harvard University. Harvard University is only top grade students, they only get a chance to study in Harvard University. From his Harvard University, he went to again that laboratory in the US Agriculture Department. In the US Agriculture Department, using those sophisticated, those advanced instruments, he started working on the gold spots again. He did not stop. It was so intriguing for him. He did not stop at any moment. He thought that, okay, I have done this much, I have won the 1st prize, I might stop now. No, the scientists, what drives them? They are constantly working towards things. They are constantly, trying to freshen up their skills. They are doing, research after research, and he was only working on one thing, and that were the gold spots. Now, because of that, because of using those sophisticated, instruments and everything, he could find the chemical structure of those gold spots. So voila, again a very good thing. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about self-life. It came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. Now, while he was looking at the X-ray photo of the hormone, as I've told you, that he had found the chemical structure of the, the gold spots, while he was looking it under the microscope, not the microscope, but he was looking at the X-ray photos of that, he found another thing. He got the idea for his new theory of cell life. The new theory about cell life, we were, the first page, whatever was written on the first page, he was, able to find this thing because of his work. When he saw those photos, Ebright didn't shout Eureka or even have got it, but he believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles: how the cell can read the blueprints of DNA. It means that this was the time when he had, found out a very big thing. He had found a huge thing. It was a medical marvel what he did. He did not say Eureka. After finding this kind of thing, he had found a very big answer. He had solved a very big puzzle, that how is DNA the blueprint of life? Okay, how is it the blueprint? And he had seen that the DNA, the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. He found about DNA. Now, they're also saying that he didn't say Eureka. He didn't say that I have got it. He was such a humble person. And he was actually very much satisfied. He did not shout. He did not show his extreme happiness or anything. But he was happy. He had actually he had solved a biggest puzzle. And as I have told you, DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. As we know that DNA is transferred from one person to another, and we can, through the DNA testing and all, a lot of crimes are solved. It's a huge thing. We even study about DNA, that how the things are passed on through hereditary. That if your father had diabetes, you are more likely to have diabetes and everything. You get your father's eyes and their hair, they look same. You just look like your father. The reason behind that is DNA. The reason behind that is that it is copied from your DNA. That is the result of your DNA. That is the result of the DNA. Because of that, he had found the form and function of the cell. DNA is the blueprint for life. That was the biggest achievement that he had achieved. So he did not say Eureka even after that. Ebright and his college roommate James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Together, this later wrote the paper that explained the theory. Ebright and his college roommate, whole night they worked. If other person might have been there, he would have been, celebrating at a bar or something. He would have been dancing or something. But no, what they were doing, his friend and his, roommate, James R. Wong, they were drawing the models. They were actually trying to find out that how this happened. So they were drawing pictures, they were constructing, plastic models, that how it could happen. They were basically, trying to prove their theory by showing, what they were trying to show. So they also wrote a paper together. Surprising no one who knew him, Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with the highest honors, second in his class of 1510. Ebright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical University, where he began doing experiments to test his theory. Surprising no one knew him. Obviously, he was not very successful. He was not very popular in his college. Nobody knew him. But when he did that, Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with the highest honors. It was not like that, as he was working on his own experiment. So it maybe he didn't get time to study and everything. He couldn't have, got very good marks, but he got the highest honors and he stood first. He got the second position in his class of 1510 students. It's quite a big thing. So everybody who didn't knew him, who didn't know him, now they started to know him. And he was also working as a researcher in the Harvard Medical School, and he was also doing the experiments, whatever experiments he was just doing along with his studies. So it means that he was able to focus on a lot of things at one time. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. If the theory proves correct, he was working on this theory. Now he knew that if this theory proves correct, now we could, understand the processes of life, the process of life, the life processes. You have a chapter known life processes. Now that was only possible because of Richard Ebright. Richard Ebright, he had worked all his nights. He had put a lot of effort. Because of him, we were, actually able to find about the life processes, and we have, find the cure of, he was trying to find out that if this theory proves right, I would be able to prevent a lot of diseases and other cancers. This theory, not him, but the theories would help that. All of this is possible because of Ebright's scientific curiosity. His high school research into the purpose of the spots on monarch pupa eventually led him to the theory about cell life. See, this was only possible because of scientific curiosity. He was scientifically curious. He was very much eager right from his childhood, right from the very first. Because of that only, he was able to achieve this thing. See, he was just trying to find out the purpose of the gold spots. How it all started. It all started with collecting the butterflies. Then it all started with his, real experiments. He started working on that gold spots. Then he found out about the hormone and everything. And eventually, it led to his theory about cell life. Okay, Richard Ebright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies, but not so deeply. Say, as I told you, that it all started with collecting butterflies, but not so deeply. He was not even working so deeply that he didn't have time for other projects. As we have read in the, starting itself, that Richard Ebright, he did everything with determination. It was not like that he was only working on science. He was working on other projects as well. And that too, luckily, he was working everything perfectly. Everything he was doing with sheer determination. He used to put his efforts in each and every field that he sought. Ebright also became a champion debater. Now see, what was the other thing? The other thing was that he was a champion debater and a public speaker, and a public speaker and a good canoeist and an all-round outdoorsy person. He's also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. See, along with the scientific achievements, along with all these things, he was studying in Harvard University, he was giving all the papers, he was working on his cell theory, he was a public speaker, he was a champion debater, he was a canoeist. Canoeist, that there is a canoe. Canoe is a long boat where you have to row the boat. Okay, so that is canoeing. So he used to do canoeing also. He was also, an excellent photographer. Okay, so he was pursuing all these things. He was an outdoorsy person. He was not like that. Usually when we look at the scientists, we think that, okay, they're always, locked inside their doors. They're always, working on their scientific theories. They do not have their personal life and everything. They do not enjoy their life. It's not like that. It's not the case with Richard Ebright. He was enjoying every bit of his life. He was an all-rounder person. He was also an outdoorsy person, not only an indoor person, but he was also an outdoorsy person. In high school, Richard Ebright was a straight-A student. Because learning was easy, he turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and Model United Nations Club. See, in his high school. It was all during his high school, when he was working on the monarch pupas and everything. He said that he was a straight-A student. He was also doing well in his studies. He was going A grades and everything. And he was also working, channelizing his energy towards the debate and Model United Nations Club. See, all his energy, there are a few people who who, you know, work outdoors. We play sports and everything. Why? Because we want energy. Now this thing was a working energy for him. It gave him a lot of energy to, you know, work in debating and, you know, to speak in these clubs and everything. He also found someone to admire, Richard A. Weir, his social studies teacher and advisor to both clubs. Mr. Weir was a perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas, Ebright said. He also found someone to inspire, you know, Richard A. Weir. Richard A. Weir is the other person who was his social studies teacher, you know, his SST teacher. He was also his advisor. Now along with science, he was always he was also interested in social science. Usually what we see is that the people who are very much engrossed in social science, they are not very lot interested in science, and the people who are very much into science, they do not care much about SST. But he was, he was just focusing on both these subjects perfectly, and he even had found an admirer, and that was Richard A. Weir. He was the perfect person for me. He also said that he was a perfect person, and he used to give him a lot of new ideas. Okay, they used to work on a lot of ideas together. Richard would always give that extra effort. Mr. Weir said, what pleased me was this person who put in 3 or 4 hours at night during debate research, besides doing all his research with butterflies and his other interests. Now Richard A. Weir, his name was also Richard. Weir will say that his SST teacher, that his social science teacher, he was very much impressed by, Richard Ebright. He was saying that this was that person who was pursuing science. He was doing, on his experiments on butterflies and everything. Along with that, he used to spend 3-4 hours at night when people usually sleep. He used to put all his efforts in that debating and everything. And he was just utilizing every second of his life. We can say that he was not wasting even a single second of his life. He was working at night as well. He was working on his debates and everything. So that was the thing. That's why his social science teacher was a very big admirer of Richard Ebright. So Richard was competitive, Mr. Weir continued, but not in a bad sense, he explained. See, now he is telling that how competitive he was. Now he's also explaining, what's competitive? Competitive is when you have a competitive spirit, that I have to win, I do not have to lose. So he's telling that he was competitive, but he was not competitive in a bad way. He was not like that. He was not like Chatur Ramalinga of Three Idiots, that, he didn't used to, make, hurdles for the other people. He just wanted to win. He just wanted to win. Why? Richard wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake. It was not for winning's sake, that no, I have to win, or winning to get a prize. He was not doing that for getting a prize, but he wanted to win because he wanted to do the best job he could. He wanted to do the best job. He wanted to do everything perfectly. That is why he was so competitive, and that was for the right reasons. He wanted to do for the right reasons. He wanted best of everything. Okay, he was like that only, and that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. It was the ingredient. Now they're talking about the making of a scientist like we talk about the making of a cake or something. So we need a lot of ingredients. In order to make a scientist also, there are, a lot of ingredients are needed. And this thing, that he was, competitive in a very good way. He was not like that he used to create hurdles for the other, as I told you. He was competitive in a very good, thing. Now, he had a first-rate mind. He is telling the ingredients. He had a first-rate mind, add curiosity, mix in the will to win for the right reasons. Ebright has all these qualities. They are basically telling us the recipe. Here is the recipe of a scientist. Recipe of a scientist, recipe of how to become a scientist. Okay. Now, what he had first-rate mind. He used to get always, he used to get, A plus marks. He had curiosity in himself, and he has the will to make everything, good for the right reasons. Ebright had all these qualities, and from the first time he's telling that from the first time he had read that book, Travels of Monarch 10, from that day it had opened a window of science for him, and he had never lost his scientific curiosity. As I told you that he was working, and he did not stop at any point. He was not disappointed that, okay, I didn't win at that county science fair, I should leave that now. No, he just went on further doing all these things. Now let's talk about the important key points of this chapter. See, an only child, Ebright grew up north of Reading, Pennsylvania. They are telling the place that where he grew up in the north of Reading, Pennsylvania. At the age of 22, when he was a former scout, he was earlier a scout of the year, he wrote a paper on a new theory of how cells work. In KG, in kindergarten, Ebright collected, he started collecting butterflies, as we knew that everything, started with collecting butterflies. He started collecting butterflies, and with that same determination, he did all these things, all the other activities that we have, learned so far. He also collected rocks, fossils, coins, and he became an eager astronomer too. It means that he also studied about planets and everything. His mother encouraged his interest in learning. His mother, who was always, encouraging him, his mother, she took him to trips. She was always encouraging him to study. She was buying microscopes and other materials for him, mounting materials, telescopes, microscopes, anything that she could buy for the person in order to increase his, learning. She used to do that. Now, he earned top grades in school, as we have learned that he used top grades in school. In his second grade, Ebright had collected all 25 species. He had collected all 25 species. Now he thought that, okay, I was done with that. But now his mother got him a book called The Travels of Monarch 10, and that actually changed his life. He started, seeing science from an other point of view. That book, opened, his view towards science, and the world of science, it was opened, and the eager young collector. At the end of the book, the readers were invited to study butterfly migrations, and Dr. Frederick Urquhart, he, encouraged the students that you should, study it in detail. So what he did, soon Ebright was attaching lithe adhesive tags to the wings of monarchs. But he began to lose interest. What we saw was that he began to lose interest because he had raised thousands of butterflies under, in his basement. Only 2 of the butterflies were recaptured. So he thought that, okay, it's very tiresome. I'm very much, tired of doing this thing. In the 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a science fair project. He participated in a county science fair and he lost. Okay, this thing, changed him. In 8th grade project, now what he did, you remember now, you have to remember all these points basically. So what he did, that he wrote to Dr. Urquhart for the suggestions that, I have to work on a real science experiment. I have just shown a slide and everything, so I didn't win anything. So what happened was, he gave him a lot of ideas, and he went on working all the ideas. In his 8th grade, he tried to find the cause of a viral disease that used to kill the butterflies. What he did, he was trying to find out the reason that why the butterflies, the monarch, caterpillars are being killed. He thought that maybe they are killed because of the beetles. So he started raising the caterpillars along with the beetles. Ebright's project was to see whether in fact, now another thing, he also, started working on another project, and in his 9th grade, he started working on a project that whether, monarch butterflies they copy the viceroy butterflies they copy the monarch butterflies. Why he did so? Because the monarch butterflies, they did not taste good, they were not very tasty, but viceroy butterflies were very tasty. So what viceroy butterflies thought that, okay, we will look like monarch butterflies so that we do not become food of the birds. Now he was working on this experiment, and he saw that the starling bird, who had a very peculiar taste, other, as compared to the other birds, they used to eat all the monarch butterflies. So this project, when he showed that thing, it was placed first in the zoology. He got first prize in the zoology department, although he was not able to prove. The other people proved this thing, that yes, viceroy butterflies do copy the monarch butterflies. In the second year in high school, Richard Ebright began research that led to his discovery of unknown insect hormone. Now he was working on unknown insect hormone, and that was that he was trying to find out a purpose. He was trying to find out the reason, a very simple answer, that what is the purpose of the 12 gold spots that are present on the monarch pupa. Okay, he was trying to find out that answer. Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device. They first had to build a device. What it showed that these spots were producing a hormone. The spots they were producing a hormone which was necessary for the butterfly's full development. This project won Ebright first place in the county science fair and entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. Okay, and as a high school student, Richard, as we saw, that when he got admission, when he got the entry in the International Science and Engineering Fair and he won the first prize, so he got an opportunity to work in the army laboratories. While he was working in the army laboratories, he was able to use the sophisticated laboratory devices there. And in his senior year, he went a step further. Now he started working on the gold spots again. When he was in his second year, when he was in his last year in the Harvard University, he went back to his summer school, in his, that US agricultural laboratory, and he started growing cells from a monarch's wing in a culture. And that showed that these cells would divide and develop into normal butterflies only when they were fed the hormone. That was a great thing. He also, he was able to, find out the chemical structure of the hormone. And when he saw that under the X-ray, what he found out? He found out that was DNA. He found out the biggest, the answer for the biggest puzzle in science was that how is DNA the blueprint of life? So he was able to find that thing. It was a huge thing, and he was, able to find out the form and function of the cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint of life. So that was a big thing to do. Further, Mr. Veerer was his social science teacher. His social science teacher was, he used to say for him that he was pleased. He was pleased that he used to, along with all his science project, he used to, dedicate 3 or 4 hours of his life towards, this debate thing. He used to, wake up 3 or 4, hours a night, and he used to work on his debates and everything. So he used to, utilize all his time. So that is why Mr. Veerer was quite admired by him. He used to admire him a lot. And he even, told about his competitive spirit, that he had a competitive spirit. He wanted to win, but he did not want to win because of winning or because of getting a prize or anything. But he wanted to win because of all the right reasons. He wanted to do best. He wanted to be best in everything. You must have seen that movie in 3 Idiots. In that movie also, that that main character Rencho says that you should not run after success. You should not run after success. You should run after excellence. And they are talking about the same thing. He did the same thing. It was a practical evidence of this thing, that if you run after excellence, if you want to do best in everything, you are going to get the success. He was not working towards, winning in everything. He had not decided that, okay, I will become very famous. Everybody is going to know me, and in Harvard University, actually the children are going to read my chapter. He hadn't thought anything about that, but he was quite excited. And he was always working about excellence. So he had got what we see, and there is a plus point that he was, excellent in everything he did. He, You can also mention that he was quite an outdoorsy person. He used to do everything, very nicely. He was a good canoeist, he was a good photographer, and he was, good in collecting things, and he was a, public speaker, he was a debater. So there were a lot of things, he was a complete all-rounder outdoorsy person. So that is, all it about, our scientists. Now let's discuss our homework. It is from your sample paper. Okay, from the sample paper itself. So let's read this question. Validate the importance of small fun learning tasks towards successful careers in the context of Richard Ebright in the making of a scientist. So we are talking about Richard Ebright and how Richard Ebright actually we can see that his mother was always, driving. She saw that he had a driving curiosity. She saw that he has a bright mind. He has interest in a lot of things. So she always, engaged him in small, fun learning tasks. What were those fun learning tasks? It were, the collection of things, or reading about butterflies, and, raising his scientific curiosity by, buying him telescopes and microscopes. Obviously, he had a microscope. That is why he was able to study all those things. He had a telescope. That is why he could, stargaze all night. He used to look at the stars, and he had become an eager astronomer. You have to validate this. You can give the example of Richard Ebright. You have to show that how in his childhood it all started with fun-loving activities. It just started with a fun-loving task that he used to, do it for fun. He used to collect the butterflies for fun. He used to collect the things for fun. But that, led to his successful career. For a successful career, what you have to do, you have to be, you have to engage yourself into a lot of things. For example, your parents, for example, you can see that sometimes, parents, they encourage you a lot, and your teachers, they encourage you a lot. Like, you get a lot of projects in your school that, as I told you, that you have to make working models, you have to make charts and everything. So you can mention that thing. That in our schools also, we are being asked to do all these things. We are being asked to do all these things so that it, arises a curiosity in us. Once it is done, what happens? We get this kind of result. And we, sometimes these things, lead to a successful career. As you can, if I have to explain you this thing, as you can see that in school everything is taught. Music is also taught, drawing is also taught, painting is also taught, art and craft is taught, each and everything. They are focusing on each and everything. Why do they do that? They do not want every student to, pursue all those careers. They do not want that every student should be an all-rounder. Okay, if a person is good in studies, he should be also, a good musician, he should also be a good dancer or anything. No. But by doing those things, they want to actually see that who is curious, who is eager towards a particular field. There may be a person who is very good at singing. When he learns music at school, when he learns music at home, he is able to find out his own, area of interest. This happened with Richard Ebright also. His mother was, helping him out in that thing, and because of that, he had a successful career. So this kind of thing you have to write out in your paper, and I hope that you will give me the answer in your comment box. Okay, you just write out the answer, and I will, post the correct answer in a while, and you can check it from there. I hope that the chapter was clear to you. Thank you so much, students. We'll meet in the next video. Till then, bye bye. Take care.